what we're going to kind of hone in on today, I won't spend much time on other introductions. When we break, we'll go and I'll tell you a little bit about Olive Wife, but we'll go ahead and first just kind of dive right in. I hate when I'm PowerPoint to death, but I am going to PowerPoint to death a little bit. We've got quite a few different slides here, but really just as reference. The thought here is that we'll talk about some different things. This is mainly going to focus on Wi-Fi large deployments, so think stadium, arenas, parks, not necessarily home or business, but and all I'm really trying to relate here are some different successes and some failures, so some different things that went along the way and some deployments that I've worked on. Who I've got on speakerphone here, he's muted out right now, is one of the guys that works in the group that I manage, Daniel Pogrzowski. He's a subject matter expert in our Wi-Fi deployments, which is, I see y'all on a regular basis, or a lot of you on a regular basis, but who I actually work for is a company called Sager that used to be Spirit Communications. I worked there for about 18 years. Different roles from sales engineer to product manager, and then now I manage a team of sales engineers in North Carolina, a team of 10 for the past a little over a year. And we've had a lot of success. And it was unintentionally, really, on the Wi-Fi front, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit as well. Because you think of telecommunications, you think of circuit delivery, you think of phones, you think of internet, and then kind of my special sauces is MPLS type deployments. Not necessarily Wi-Fi, but there's a niche that we're able to kind of fulfill for some of the larger venues. Mainly in the Carolinas, a little bit in Virginia as well. We'll kind of talk about some of those projects that are behind us and some that are ahead of us, and I'll actually use a few examples as well. But obviously, just ask questions, ping me. Nothing's a dumb question. Hopefully, if you ask me a really hard one, I'll get our guy from the remote to chime in. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, when you look at a large venue, there's quite a few different challenges that come about that you wouldn't think about, like if you're doing, say, Wi-Fi at your house or even small business, because a real issue with Wi-Fi is concentration of people, concentration of devices. It has to do with resistance factors, so building composition, cinder blocks, steel, glass is actually a big thing. Some of my friends that are totally in on Wi-Fi, they'll tell you about how bodies act, create some different resistance or act as conduits in some situations for signals from an RF perspective, how Wi-Fi travels. Security is a really big issue, as Alan kind of pointed out before we got going. There are breaches left and right and all over the darn place. Security is hot, and obviously applies with Wi-Fi. There's major concerns there, and there's kind of a gray area when it comes to liability with Wi-Fi as well, so we have to be kind of mindful of that. Then you get into having available WAN or IP transit, so the circuits coming into the facility and having redundancy in place there, I think about. Internal and external users, so different SSID arrangements, and when you're doing Wi-Fi deployment, really you're trying to lock in. Everyone thinks of an SSID, like if I look right here, I probably see Microsoft Guest, Microsoft Internal, I don't know, probably several others. When you're doing a Wi-Fi deployment, kind of the rule of thumb is never get over 6 SSIDs. What we've realized when we do a lot of these large venue deployments is there's all these third parties that come in, meet you after saying, oh, I need it for point of sales, I need it for these cameras, I need it for the audio system. So you really want to try to capture some of those things up front. And then point of sale units. So there's different things you definitely have to be concerned about when it comes to point of sales and how that interfaces from a Wi-Fi perspective. What I have noted up here too, we've talked about some previous meetings, especially if some of you get involved with like the IoT group that meets here on a regular basis. A big thing for them is BLE, right, which is Bluetooth, really, when you think of it. So it's these little tokens that you help find out certain things. And I actually got one in my pocket. Here, I probably should show this. It's kind of a fun one. We'll lead into this a little bit, but I literally got back yesterday from Disney World, which is fun and exhausting and expensive and yeah, all that good stuff. They make sure that
You want a sales award?
they give. I wish this I need to pay for it. Yeah. Good. So they make everybody. You're almost like here's your identification throughout the whole park. Put these things on. They call them their magic bands. But in reality, what it is
They're tracking.
it's a way to get to your wallet pretty good, right? But it's your tracking device. It's a way for them to validate that you pay for such and such privilege, or that your meal plan, all that type of thing. It's all done through identification of these chargers and delays. We'll get into that a little bit further as we talk. And then future proofing. So, right now, from a Wi-Fi perspective, 802.11 AC, 802.11 AC 2. Those are kind of common ones that you hear about when you go back a ways in the N and G and all that. But what's coming up next, and you're actually starting to see some of these deployments now, is they call it Wi-Fi 6 or 802.11ax. It was interesting, I was at the 6 miles away, the Valentine Hotel Resort. They were actually deploying it there. So you're starting to see some deployments of it in certain places, certain areas. We'll get into that a little bit. We could actually, I thought about it, for a future meeting, have some folks come in that are on the vendor side that could really talk pretty deep when it comes to initiatives of Wi-Fi 6 and how that also affects small cell or 5G as well. And then looking at existing drops conduits. So when looking at like these large venues, it's great for a company like ours or anybody that's deploying Wi-Fi, or if you're on the IT side looking at deploying Wi-Fi, to be involved in when they're doing the scheduled drawings. So that's the actual CAD layout and where they're actually planning to put conduit. Especially when you look at an arena or a stadium, once you pour concrete, it settles, and that's pretty much what you're dealing with, right? So things become difficult from a deployment standpoint once the cement settles. So it's good to have input in early on, because then you can actually say, hey, I need a conduit running through this cement. I need these overhangs. You actually have some of that input. And then environmental conditions considerations. So the big thing is it going to be outside? Is it going to be somewhere where it's exposed to cold or heat? And then the aspect too of sun, right? So I'll show a couple of APs here, but plastic phase, right? And then also, if it's deployment like a park, aesthetics matter. They want to have things that blend in. They get really cranky when it's a big old white device hanging on a green pole in the middle of the beautiful park they renovate. So there's considerations there, but there's things you can do to help with those concerns. We'll get into that in just about. Before I really kind of get into it next, just out of curiosity, everybody's got Wi-Fi at home. Have any kind of done deployments before on a scale of 10 plus APs? You have, all right. So even what we're talking about here is quite a few different APs. I'd like to kind of get y'all's input too as we go along, so you might have your own things you've learned or things you want to share as far as experiences with Wi-Fi deployments as well. I just kind of wanted to outline this for those that are kind of thinking about tackling or considering Wi-Fi. This is kind of the thing that helped me engaging where am I on the deployment aspect of the project. So there's certain things that we got to know up front when we're looking at these projects. What is the budget? If you tell me, hey, I've got to fill this whole banquet hall, and you've got a budget in the hundreds or single-digit thousands of dollars, one-time spend, probably not the solution for you, right? It's more so these things are costly. It's not your net gear that we're plugging in. And then identify what are the requirements. So these projects, what was the norm 3 years ago is different today. What we've seen in different RFPs that I've been working on, I just finished one last week for James Madison University. It had a scratch in our head was they wanted to account for every person that was in attendance. And they wanted them all to be able to connect. Usually those deployment models, that's my he's doing like, yeah, it was percentage based. And what we normally looked at was it'd be great if 20 to 25% of people connected, and you feel that that's a real success. Kind of the norm was more so 15%, what we would see on a lot of these deployments. What they wanted though was everybody covered. And what we found is there's certain kind of like Wi-Fi deployments and where Wi-Fi is going, where that makes sense. Met last Tuesday with some of y'all might know him. He's been in our meetings before. James Hammond, who's the CTO. Used to be the CTO. Well, Winthrop earlier. Used to be the CTO at Winthrop, and now he's the CTO over at the Panthers. And he and I were talking last week. And if you go into the Panther Stadium now, and you're a Verizon user, it automatically connects you to their Wi-Fi. It's a Wi-Fi option. It's not an opt-in type of thing or like that. It actually just kind of does like a transition to their Wi-Fi. Verizon and other carriers are trying to actually opt in with some of these different large venues as not to take load onto the 4G network or what will be the 5G network. Instead, they want to offload that to Wi-Fi. So it's kind of interesting how their strategies are evolving with large venues. Then you get into network design, intake docs, identifying success criteria. So again, how many users you want to connect, how kind of speeds do you want? Do you want a meg connection? Do you want 10 meg? 10 meg is usually the norm, you see. But we've had some where they say, hey, I'd love for my internal users to kind of have a preference, right? To have a preference over public connectivity, and maybe I want to give them 100 meg up down as opposed to 10 meg up down. You can do certain things like that, or accommodate for them on no up front. Site walk, so just visiting this place. Risk mitigation. Then you get into, and I won't read through each one of these, but high-level preliminary design. So what we look at and what we will show you towards the tail end of this is we do like we do a site survey. We ask for like CAD drawings, right? So design drawings. Oops. And then what we end up producing is we take those CAD drawings and we do a preliminary site assessment, right? So we'll actually use a tool. We used to use a tool called Air Magnet, and now we use one called Ekahau, in which what we'll do is we'll put in consideration building, right? So it's cinder block, it's whatever the material, wood. Here, actually, what you're looking at on both sides here, and I can pass it around. I figured I could share this. This is for the city of Hickory. So working on a project for them. They have a pretty involved project in which some of you might be aware of it, where they're putting a walkway, and they've been planning for like 10, 15 years, and they got the money behind it now. A walkway that's going to go through downtown to Lenore Ryan University. Then the other direction is going to go to nearby lake. And first part of it is in the downtown area, they call it Union Square. They want to cover Wi-Fi, and they want to host events. They want to have, their thought was potentially 4,000 people in that consolidated 2-block area. So we had to think of that, and it's a great time to be involved with it because they're putting light poles in place, and we can then decide what's the best APs to use. And if you look here, we'll actually go like what direction they're facing. We tell them what kind of height we want to be at. Usually 12 feet is the height that's good for these AP placements. And we're using vendor-wise something called Ruckus. Are any of you familiar with Ruckus?
Most bit of Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Does anybody else know Ruckus around here too? Maybe they are? No? Okay. Well, what's kind of interesting about Ruckus, and I say Ruckus, there's really some, when you look at large scale deployments, there's quite a few different players. You've got Cisco actually checks the box twice. They got Cisco Meraki, and then they have their own Cisco solution. You and I were talking earlier about Ubiquity. Ubiquity is a really good solution. There's a lot of folks that are deploying it, and it's low cost, durable. You don't get hit with all these license charges. And if you want to do this, that, and the other. Ubiquity is a really good solution. And then you have Aruba, which a lot of people think are the Cadillac solution. Works really well. It can be a little costly though. Ruckus fills a good void. Ruckus does a really good job for these type of deployments. What you might not, if you don't know Ruckus, what you might know, you all heard of Eris, right? Okay. And you've all heard of, we've been to some other kind of sister companies here. You've ever heard of Brocade or Foundry switches? So that's all under the same umbrella, which is CommScope. And the cool thing about CommScope, do you know where they're headquartered?
Later on.
Yeah, so Yeah, that's correct. So right here in the Charlotte Metro, at Claremont, Hickory, Charlotte, they actually have, what's kind of interesting about this rollout here is two of the CommScope board members, so actually the CEO and their over legal are on a technology advisory board for the city of Hickory. So they donated to the city of Hickory $275,000 worth of equipment, which is great, right? And then they said, ask CommScope, who's good to partner with deployments? And luckily, they were glad they pointed the finger at us, right? So it all worked out. But it's kind of cool that somebody that's a leader worldwide in these type of technologies is based right here. So some of those folks over at Ruckus or CommScope have said that they come and present to our group as well. So I'm holding to it. We're going to be getting 100%.
Is any of those devices not made in China?
We were talking earlier, because you mentioned, so most of all of these devices, when you break them in, or break, let me show you something. And here's the good stuff. There. So this is like what a typical indoor AP would look like. It's a Ruckus one. When you take off the shell, Ruckus, it's just so funny when you get down to the basic, what makes you different. Their big thing, they'll say, is beam flex technology. And what does that actually mean? It means they go 3D when it comes to their boards. So that's not good to have plastic on a board like that, but this thing will never work again anyways after I took the cover off. What you kind of have here is they'll actually take their electrical boards and wire them in three-dimensional ways as to put the antennas so that they're pointing a certain direction. It's kind of funny, but that's literally what they're doing. And this one in particular actually has 4 radios. And if you look at the board, I'll pass it around, take a look. You can see where those antennas are actually welding down to the board. But that's their proprietary special sauce. It's three-dimensional circuit boards.
You put aluminum foil to get better reception?
Yeah, sure. Aluminum foil. Yeah, we'll hold a copper wand, whatever.
Yeah.
That's right. Go ahead. So I'll pass that around, or I'll take a look at that. But then we get into things too where network design. So we talked about detailed site survey, network design. Then we get into installation, integration, support. It gets a bit interesting because I've been on projects before. I'm used to being in the cubicle, right? They just pound away on a keyboard. These type of projects get you out of the office a little bit, kind of put hard hats on and kind of plug myself in during the whole construction phase as well, which is kind of cool to be involved with that and get out there on ladders and scissor lifts, all that good stuff. And then post installation, we use a tool called MetaGeek. It's actually now built into the suite of Echo, which we'll be showing you, in which it'll, after post installation, validate that you've actually done what you intended to do, that you can get the speeds that you want to get. And what it'll do is create a similar drawing to this. Here what it's saying, green meaning really what is my power, right? So power has a lot to do with Wi-Fi success. So it's telling my EV levels, according to the graph here, you get the yellows. Obviously it's not great.
Why does it weigh so much?
Why does that weigh so much? I don't know. Solder, I guess. They do have some steel in the back of it where the Ethernet connects in. Yeah, you think that weighs a lot. I'll show you some here in a minute that take the cake when it comes to weight. And then we do live event testing too. So we'll have some of our engineers on site that'll just walk the area and work with the different vendors or IT on staff to ensure that everyone's connecting properly. You don't have dead zones. We'll make adjustments on the fly during live events as well. Yeah.
For some things, you can do like synthetic clients for load testing.
Yep. Right. Same.
So can you actually load it up with software and hardware solutions to say, okay, how many simultaneous connections is it really?
Yes, and there's actually, and I'm going to forget the name, and I heard him click off. He told me he was going to click off when he went to the Virginia Tunnel. And then we got the other side of dial back in. I'll have to ask him again. It's actually, there's a tool that we use we've had meetings before about Raspberry Pis. There's one that you can actually use out there and it'll generate as if so it is using kind of some brute force too to create traffic, but then it's also creating user sessions as well. There is an issue there too. I forgot what to say. Is, actually, you're limited to how many antennas you have to, because I can't connect with. I don't have 100 or thousands of antennas per se. So really, it's a finger crossed for us. The first event, right? We hope everything works out right. But in actuality, what we've noticed where we've had the best success of measuring is, especially in a new building, new venue, is they'll usually have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and we'll just have it fully staffed with our folks, and we're just trying to see what comes up.
How many people can you hang on from one access? One of these rockets?
So it depends. It really has more about the radius count, or the radio counts. So for Ruckus, and really all the vendors are really similar in this fashion, where it's I think it's actually 254 exactly, users per radio. So times by 4, there's 4 radios. But we do have some APs, outdoor ones I'll show you in a minute.
But you get a straight divide for your networking throughput, right?
Yeah.
So if you have 100 meg going to something that supports just under 1,000 users.
Right. So for us, that's where we actually come in, and the value of somebody like a service provider providing the connection for this is we're going to amortize, we're going to roll it all together, right? So the circuit delivery for us is our everyday thing. And I'll be honest with you, from a service provider standpoint, how we build our models, what that all looks like. If I were going into a business delivering them 10 meg as compared to a gig connection, my cost doesn't really change much. Right? So I have the value of being able to provide big pipes to these venues at what it would be a regular cost for us. So what we're doing usually when we're doing these venues is we're bringing in east and westbound, and then bringing two separate central offices or LSOs, which we're then injecting 10 gig internet. Usually what we're doing.
10. And that means to each access point.
Okay. So to each access, what we're then doing, so why I like Brocade and Ruckus in particular, is because the Ruckus APs talk to Brocade switches. It's all kind of the same ecosystem, and they have they've gotten really aggressive with some of their switches. They were great at switches. Foundry was, 8, 10 years ago. Then they kind of fell off a little bit, and then since the CommScope, they seem to pick it up a little bit. So they've got these fairly inexpensive switches that have 10, 40, and 100 gig backplane options. So we'll put those in our, what they call IDS, which is kind of remote closets, telecom closets, feeding back uplinks over fiber connections to the MDF. And then we'll have some bigger aggregate boxes there, fiber termination. Yeah. I told you on the PowerPoint, I only got 2 slides, look at that. So we talked a little bit about this is that B-Flex thing, that's a Ruckus solution. Again, what I'm going to talk about is focus a little bit on them, but I'm pretty agnostic. There isn't a huge difference between all these vendors. To be honest, the real difference is what they do from a controller and software standpoint in the back end, and how they support their solution. Wi-Fi is kind of so what they're doing there, they're talking about polarization, right? Vertical, because all Wi-Fi is waves, right? Waves through the air. Let me show you something else here. These are heavy. So these are the ones that we normally deploy in a lot of these events. So this is a 710. P710. So this is outdoor. This is a 310. They're a little bit more hefty. Here I'm showing Velcro. We don't attach these with Velcro. He's got doesn't. So it's metal, stainless steel straps that we use and bolt on poles. They'll hang on poles. They'll show some other options of you can get like a lot of different bracket or hanging different options with these. But if you look at the bottom here, Ethernet in, PoE, and then you can actually have a switchboard out. A lot of the solutions like that have this option now too, where if I wanted to daisy chain these, I could. Only problem with doing that is if I have this one and then I connect this one, it divides in half the number of users that I can have connected to. And then power. Power is a big deal. Power input.
As in addition to PoE or instead of?
Instead of. So if for some reason don't have a power option and injector option that can go AC. What's really cool that CommScope, again, kind of like the whole aspect of what they're doing, I can show what we're actually doing this for City of Hickory. A real issue with public Wi-Fi is when I get certain distances away. As you all know, Ethernet's got distance limitations. So 300, 300 feet is usually the distance limitation, and then if you start curving around or you have other Ethernet cables near it, crosstalk, you can fluctuate a little bit. But that's where we're crossing our fingers saying that's pretty much the absolute farthest we can go. What's nice about, I think this one's got the option, let me see. It doesn't, darn it. Oh yeah, that's right here. So this has an SFP option. So what that means, for those that aren't kind of familiar with the fiber world, is I could put a fiber termination unit in there, and I can then directly interface fiber to it. Again, if I do that, the AC comes in handy because
There's no power over
there's
fiber.
no power over fiber, but I got an answer. It's kind of cool what they're doing now. So you got your fiber coming in, and then you got your power here. When we were in cities, sort of like Spartanburg, Columbia, they wanted different parks. What we do there is we use their power, because that can be an issue too, right? If we're trying to do Wi-Fi in some place that's public, how do we actually power it? And who's going to give you power? We do have agreements in place, and so do other providers are putting these in place to where I can work with a Duke Power or a SCANA, and I can have it metered, but then it's a whole hassle. Like there's a meter that then lives on that telephone pole, down a ways, that then charges us X amount for power. They also have some kind of bulk rates that you can look at as well, but it becomes a hairy mess that we don't want to deal with. So it's nice if you have an agreement with like a city or whoever you're working with in which we do our fiber and then use their power to get to these large distances. CommScope's smart. So what they're doing now, it's interesting, and they're not the only ones doing this, is they have something called like a Siamese cable, which what they'll do is you kind of look at your, I'm not trying to find a power cable around here. You see these power cables where you have a ground, and then you have your hot, your negative, and it's really 3 wires that can peel back a little bit, right? Well, they're doing the same thing with fiber, which what they'll do is they'll have fiber in the center and power on the outsides. So what it's allowed to do, like for the City of Hickory project, is I can go further distances now. Right? I can actually use pre-existing electrical conduit, which before was a no-no. If I try to put Ethernet down, electrical conduit, I'll get crosstalk resistance and probably whoever the I'm trying to think here. Inspector it looks at would just go, oh no, that fails. You cannot do that, right? And get a real slap in the face from like the electricians outside.
Solar power.
Yes, yeah. So we've done a couple of those. Those really what we're doing there is just put a solenoid on top of the pole, so you can put that and you can get your similar thing you see a lot of times with the street lights that come on. They'll have a little solenoid on top, which it looks like almost like this cup upside down on top of it. Yeah, you can do that. It gets a little expensive for us to do that, but it is an option. CommScope, again, smart. What they're doing is they've come out too with their own telephone poles. So their own poles, they're manufacturing poles. And that's more so in anticipation of 5G stuff that's coming down the pipe, right? They need those antennas hidden away. If you look at like, what's the really nice development here in town? I'm trying to think what it's called. Over by the golf course. What's that?
Waverly.
Valentine?
No, it's over by Quail Hop. So Quail, that's another project I'm working on. But no, over by there. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Whatever the case, it made news probably about 6 months ago where small cell deployments, which is for 4G in particular, they're trying to do this. They put this thing that kind of looks like an R2D2 on top of a tower, and they deployed it in the neighborhood. And people said, "Oh no, we don't want that thing here," and so they actually took it down. So that wasn't us. It was another vendor called Crown Castle, but they were deploying it to the neighborhood, which would give everybody better cell reception. You think they would have loved it, but no, they didn't want that eyesore in the neighborhood.
My report period.
Yeah, I forget which one it was. It's one that church.
South Park?
Okay, yeah.
South Park or South Boulevard.
Fox.
Oh,
Do you ever bridge, use these to bridge from one to another if there's no other way to get there?
No. They do have some options for those. We haven't used it for a bridge before. In actuality, we've used it, you know, we're talking on the side. We've used ubiquity devices for that. They actually have a really cool, and we said bridging, when we talk about is, so let's say I've got an obstacle where I can't get from here to the wall or further or to a barn, and I want to get Wi-Fi there, or I want to get internet connectivity to them, and maybe then talks to a switch and they can have phones out and all that. We've used these ubiquity devices before, and then there's there's quite a few vendors in that space. But
But use a dedicated box.
yeah, and they have a good one. Really, it's sub like $300. It works great. Get like 100 meg plus. It's symmetrical. Yeah, it's really good. I don't get that. That's a little too much. So I showed this picture earlier. And what I just wanted to show here is there's a couple things here. You know, rank 2 overhead. So what we're doing is actually, and this is we didn't work on this deployment, but I knew some of the guys that did. This is UNC Greensboro. That's what this is. So they have overhead APs, and then they have some too up on the, look at the roofing joist where they're hanging those APs as well. And if I were to click through to see what they're doing, right? You've got certain power parameters, probably 60, 70 dB, and then beyond here as far as goals from those particular antennas. Pogo, are you on? You got muted? I call him Pogo, it's Dan Poker's house. You might be able to hear it right now, too. He's,
Yeah, I'm on the road though, Nate.
okay, all right, but just tell them what you do normally when you go out and you're actually placing an AP. What's the strategy you use there? Probably try to make a left-hand turn.
I'm sorry, Nate, I can barely hear you.
Oh, I'll get the, hold on, we get the microphone here.
When doing AP placements and we hang them from the rafters and such, what are you looking to do? Like, what's the methodology or thought process of hanging them and putting them in specific angles?
So as far as the angle towards the crowd, the client?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we do is we have someone up on the ladder, and they take the AP and they do the down tilt on that, and I'll be in the crowd or where we want the RF to propagate with the analyzer, and I'll measure the signal while I'm walking around.
Okay. And I know you want to focus on driving. When you get landed, River, let me know. But thanks for kind of answering that for me while I click through some slides here. Appreciate it.
So here you're kind of looking to see that it says rank 1, rank 2. What we're actually deciphering here, I didn't type it out each one, but that's actually deciphering whether or not we use this particular AP, this particular AP, or different ones we have in that ranking. And it's passing around. Just don't drop it on your foot is all I'll say. They're not all that expensive. The question was how expensive are these? There's some licensing costs, but and again, comparable ones that you find from other. This one usually about $3,000, $2,000, $3,000. That one's probably more about $100. So you can kind of see where some of them are deployed here and how they're attached. A lot of these scenarios too, you have to almost do it when it's being built, or that's the most convenient time, because in a certain part of the construction phase, once they put these seats in, these railings and all that, good luck getting up here, right? How do you do it? It's hard. It's very hard if all this is in place. Normally, when they start building these, if they don't have seats in place here, you can get a scissor lift or something like that there, and it makes it a whole lot easier. And try to do this with ladders and things like that. No fun. Although they have a lot of kind of interesting scissor lifts now too, where they'll come out from the field or arena area and they'll actually extend out up under. Because obviously they have maintenance for speakers, things like that, outside of just the AP.
If you hang this by Velcro, and you have any sunlight,
Yeah, in actuality, you don't really see it there because we don't have them on there, but you see the loop there as well. There's like so you have kind of your guard, and then there's a little loop on the side.
But what I'm saying, Velcro's gonna deteriorate with the age and.
Oh, yeah, we don't use it. I'll have to ask him why the heck he's got Velcro on there now. But see, these right here, we actually, from a safety perspective, have to actually
Tether.
tether them again. Yeah, so we have them fastened, and then there's also tethering that takes place too. So if for some reason came off, yeah, you have another gear there. I don't like parachutes, right? You don't want to go with just one. Here you kind of see too, you've got APs deployed. If you look before, like that's what the lights looked like, and then it was kind of the fit here where it worked well was kind of going a zigzag pattern around the lights that they have. I was just kind of showing here, for that example, zone count, that which actual APs we use. So 710s, which is that big one you're hanging around, and then 510 we can actually use on here, but it's comparable to that 610. Let's do. If you ask the group for there is, because when you think about what the heck, I've got a wireless at my house, I've got a Apple time capsule, right? What does it do? And that's what I've got in my house, to be honest with you. How does that differ than this stuff? Well, it's how many concurrent users can be connected. It's things too like how much power you can put out, how many radios are on there, how many concurrent users I can have, how much of that is daisy chain or streaming capabilities I have. Also, when we're doing these deployments, what we're kind of thinking right now is 5 gigahertz as far as signal putting out, but there's a lot of legacy devices that are in place that only do 2.4, so we have to account for that. You have to be kind of really careful there because you can drown each other out, right? That's the whole thing with radio signals is you can kind of cause some issues if you're not careful in how you actually deploy a strategy. So we really try to limit on our deployments to 2.4 gigahertz coverage we've got out there and try to focus more so on the 5 gigahertz. 5 gigahertz, shorter distance, higher speeds. 2.4, longer distance, but quite the speeds.
What do you do, is everybody on the same channel, or the channels automatically?
That's a good question.
And what about handing off? As I'm walking to get beer,
Yep,
how is the handoff managed between the people?
that's a great question. So, the question that Alan kind of proposed, and my buddy Pogo might have some input there too, so I'll grab the microphone just in case and ask him. He loves this discussion and talking about it. So,
Beer or handoff?
well, both, right? So, from a channel standpoint, there's multiple channels, and it's auto select. So, it kind of depends on certain vendors. Some may actually say, I want to actually hone this to this specific channel every time. And you may even want to say, for my point of sale devices, for instance, I want them only using these channels, and I want to lock these other out. Hey, Pogo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, if you're free for a second, kind of explain the issue you ran into with the satellite and channel selection. I say satellite, actually telescope.
Not the radar?
Yeah, the radar, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, talk to
Not
them
the
first.
radar. Yeah, so that's the DFS channel along the 5 gigahertz range, where pretty much, so there's 24 channels in the 5 gigahertz range, and I think 18 of those fall within DFS. So if you're close to a Doppler radar, the access points, as soon as they boot up and acquire a channel, if they listen for those other channels for Doppler radar. If they do hear any type of radar, they release that channel immediately, then there's a wait period, and then they pick up another channel, and then see if they, they'll listen again, see if they hear the Doppler radar, and it just goes through a vicious cycle. So there's I think 18 channels, as I said, that fall within the DFS dynamic frequency spectrum that you cannot use if you're close enough to a Doppler radar. It just so happens in Leesburg, Virginia, with the Zephyr Field, the Doppler radar was less than a mile away. So of course, we had a lot of issues with that. So I pretty much only had about 7 channels to work with 70 APs in the stand.
So that became, so just to kind of outline that a little bit, that became problematic for us because normally you have a whole lot more channels, which gives you a lot more options. Instead, we had to lock out a bunch of different channels because of this, happened to be Doppler radar was very close to the field. I know every news channel talks about Doppler this, Doppler that, but there's not a whole lot of actual Doppler radars out there. So that was kind of a head scratch. We had to get vendors involved and really kind of work through that a little bit. But normally, if I'm a user, and if I go from one AP to another, it will do that handoff. It'll be seamless. What we're using right now from a Ruckus perspective, that's been very good for us, and it's auto. I gotta say though, I've had bad experiences with that before, where it sticks. In actuality, we did a deployment of Wi-Fi. Now this was 12 years ago. So this is 12 years ago. We had, I'm really kind of a voice guy by telephony is my thing. And we deployed Wi-Fi at Spartanburg County Library, which happens to be this big, huge, beautiful library. It's well funded. There's folks that have donated a whole lot of money to it. And so they were ahead on the technology curve. What they wanted to do is they wanted librarians there, folks there, to be able to have these little side phones. And they're actually made by Linksys. They're called an iPhone before the iPhone came out. Strange thing, but they would work on Wi-Fi. But the issue that they had is bookcases are all made of metal. That causes some real issue for Wi-Fi. At the time, it was G, right, wireless G. And when we would go from AP to AP on these phones, it would drop every time. Well, not every time, but on a regular basis where it's too much to just overlook. And I've had a couple vendors that we've used before in the past that they had really cool solutions a lot of ways, but they were horrible at that.
So as Verizon, we were talking about Verizon, are you building these APs to, is most of the traffic voice over IP?
Oh, yeah, so no, most of our
And you know,
yeah.
Verizon says, thank you so much for, you know, having your Wi-Fi. We'd love to do this instead of our cell towers.
Right. No, that's kind of a, we haven't ever had a request like that come in yet. That was kind of interesting that James was kind of sharing with me that that's where Verizon was making an inquiry to them and deploying it via, he was like an NFL player, not even necessarily Panthers. But that seems like where it's going. So what we're actually doing as a carrier and trying to be proactive is we're thinking more along the lines of what I just saw deployed a few weeks ago at Valentine Resort, which is proactively working with these builders and multi-tenant business parks to where we say, we'll go ahead and cover you, blanket you with Wi-Fi. We'll have there'll be some things for them, some things for us. But what's kind of interesting is, you know, we hear about 5G and it coming around the corner. The biggest problem that 5G is going to have as far as deployment is real estate. Okay, real estate is the real issue.
It goes this far.
It goes that far, and it's different. So again, I worked a lot in the past with Verizon, with T-Mobile, Sprint. We're actually, that's kind of our thing of how we were built fiber, is we're the primary fiber builder to a lot of those carriers throughout the Carolinas. The funny thing is, before they would say, I need coverage here, and then they would tell us the tower that they were trying to get to. Okay, and we give them a price, and it was usually a 5-year, 7-year type model, and then we build there for one carrier, and then the other carrier behind would reap the benefits because we built the fiber. Well, there's fiber to every tower you see now has fiber to it. That wasn't the case 3 years ago. But we're at that model where every tower's got fiber to it. 5G is a whole different beast, right? Because it's not the same coverage area. You're talking different technology, wavelengths different, all of that. And as you kind of said, shorter distances. Yeah, you can get gig speeds, but you might go around the block. Right, hanging on light posts, which is kind of more like small cell, which didn't really capture a whole lot of success because of the aspect that when a Verizon or T-Mobile comes to a company like us and says, I need here. Okay, I don't have any agreement with that particular business owner or whatever. So it's a whole real estate nightmare. Because where they're gonna wanna do this is they're gonna wanna hang them from buildings, they're gonna wanna hang them from light posts, they're gonna wanna, you hear of all types of crazy things, like in, too bad Frank isn't here, but he's been doing a lot of work in Puerto Rico, and they've been testing and putting up in, like, weather balloons, things like that, yeah. So, 5G is going to be interesting. We'll just see what happens with that. A lot of people actually believe that it's going to be a blend of Wi-Fi and 5G to get where 5G wants to be. We'll see what happens. That might be an interesting one to have some of our other folks come in and talk about, because they're just totally focused on that. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I'll share this slide deck for anybody that wants to see it. But it's just kind of some of the different things from what we do from a capture standpoint, what our objective is, what are our key performance indicators, SSIDs, figuring out what those are, encryption requirements. Because as you said, security is such a big thing. They'll have true encryption requirements depending on SSIDs as well. So they might say, hey, 256 works fine, just fine here. It doesn't work, that won't cut it for this. And you have some customers want to have this SSID pull back to this particular firewall, and another going to a different firewall. So those are kind of things that happen there. All right, let's get into actually a deployment project example. Do y'all want to break for 5 minutes or so? All right, we'll go ahead and just give a kind of an example here. Hey, so this is going to be a good one to talk about, because the company I work for has got their name branded all over this darn thing too. And it was really kind of a cool project a little bit over a year ago that I got to work on, which was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. They had this, they built a stadium, and they were able to attract a single A team that is owned by the Houston Astros. So it's called the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. If you're ever bored and hanging out in Fayetteville some night, go check it out this summertime, because their games are a lot of fun. They really bring the entertainment aspect of the games. But what was really kind of cool is it's where politics sometimes works out, right? People that are working on certain things work together collaboratively.
Do you learn how to steal signs and communicate it?
Oh my gosh, yeah, what was interesting is, what they got right here is, this is actually an old hotel that's out there, and one of the guys that works on my team, he remembered when he was at, going through, gosh, when he was in the Army, right, and he was at Fort Bragg. He remembered staying there with his wife, this old hotel that has been there since 1920s, 1930s. And the guy that bought this, and then also was the idea of putting the stadium in place and then build this hotel, his grandfather was the original architect of this hotel. It's kind of cool to see some of that come back. The stadium, they built this nice plaza. It's become kind of the thing to do in Fayetteville, but the ballpark's actually owned by the city. The team's owned by Houston Astros, and we got involved originally with naming rights. Whenever we get involved with naming rights type things, we obviously want to put our technology in there as well. So yeah. Strong Hotel, or $10 million renovations. It's kind of cool thing to be involved with, where you see like rejuvenation of a city that had more of a reputation of kind of scandalous nightlife, not family wholesome type, right? So fun stuff. So we were talking earlier about drawings and kind of getting that information that help with the predictive aspect. When we work on these like ballparks, for instance, we'll get a master drawing here, and then it'll have these different section breakouts to hone in, and then level view, level 1, field level, and then kind of the level 2, which is where the locker rooms are, and things like that. So, go ahead.
Got a question there. In the schematics in the drawing there, is there a formula that you use to space the access points, in the placement area? Is that?
Yep, so what hopefully we'll show you at the tail end of this is the program that we use for this right here. And I'll show you the example. This tool it's got a few things to it. There's different aspects to it, but one part of the tool is I can import in a PDF or I can import in a CAD file. And when I do that, what it then asks is it sees that there's a wall here, right? It makes an assumption that it's, that the interior is going to be sheetrock, the exterior is going to be brick, wood, whatever. And then we can go in and hone it and say, no, it's this. And this wall here is 4 foot, not 2 foot. So we can make adjustments to that. And that's the guy I got here, that's pretty much what he does all day, every day. So that makes up a big part of what he does. And then when you do that, what it then does is it looks at it and it'll say, you can create parameters, so like polygons within there that you click on and say, I want coverage here. And I'm going to have users of X amount. It'll start giving suggestions on where to put those APs. And then we can move them around. So if we're in like a host, so like a building that's already built, obviously if I've got a drop, right here, I'm going to try to get as close to those drops as I can, so that I can even indicate this is where my drop is. And actually on these drawings, there's an indicator too of like a circle, triangle, usually 2 lines through it. And it knows when it sees that, there's a drop there. And so it'll look at that when it puts in where it's basically putting in an access point. The cool thing too about that software, I gotta grab it. It's called, I hate the name of some of these new technology companies. They've gotten so wacky with, I forget it, I forget how to spell it. So it's Ekahau. What's cool about it is, here I'm using Ruckus, but all vendors that you've ever considered doing, it hasn't preloaded. So you can just select their APs and then it'll show the coverage. And it'll first show it maybe in omnidirectional, meaning that it's like circles around the center point. But then if I select one where I'm trying to do this beam flexing and say I want to hone it on 30 degrees, it'll allow me to do that as well. Thanks for the question. Interesting thing that Alan asked on the break too, or we talked about, was we're putting on this Wi-Fi and you're going to certain areas. I'm kind of a conspiracy guy in a way. I get weirded out on who's got my data, and when, and what they know, all that type of stuff. And I think
They know everything.
They know everything, right? And I don't want them to know everything. So part of the concern, when we roll these things out, a lot of times they're wanting to know about everybody. They want to know as much as they can from a marketing standpoint. And there's different ways that they can capture from that, tools they can use to get that information. And a project that we're working on right now, they deployed one of those and they used the captive role. So which means up front saying, hey, if you want to use the Wi-Fi, give me your email address. And as soon as they did that, they noticed a huge drop in the takers of the Wi-Fi. They noticed a drop of 75% of users using it. Because they don't want to do that, right? Who wants to do that? One thing you might want to be mindful of too, most of you probably know this or played around with it, but there is a privacy setting in iPhones or similar one too on the Android. You probably do want to check that if you are a little paranoid like me. Turn some of that off because if you've got like apps like LinkedIn, Facebook, it does kind of do a little crawl there, right? And it'll find out information about you. Some of these tools that they use to overlay, it will do some very interesting and weird things. Some of them I've seen before where it's, let's say Kenny Chesney's in town, everybody shows up, certain people connect to the Wi-Fi, some people do it intentfully, and some people it's more of a passive thing where it sees your device. It also can still serve. And when it does that, it then goes into this database, it does searches on you, it figures certain things out, and it gives them concert promoters analytics about the demographics of the attendees. It'll say 20% of the audience were Hispanic. They were women from the age of 20 to 25, made up X amount percentage. The median income of the attendees is $40,000. It'll do all that for them. And then it will also use some of your things like, some people go, hey, it's crazy, I went to the such and such Coliseum. As soon as I went in and I left, I got a coupon via my Facebook of the next event coming up. It's kind of that in action, right? they will then too say, all right, you came to a Kenny Chesney concert last month. 3 months prior to that, you went to, oh, I don't know, Diamond Rio. I'm trying to think of who some other country acts are. I'm taking some of that. So we say, hey, you're a country fan, so next time we have somebody else come through this country act, we're going to send you a ticket that gives you a discount, you know, 2 for 1 or whatever. So they are using some of that data for sure. And if you're worried about that, change your privacy and decide which apps you want to potentially have access to, if any at all.
Today my phone shut down. He went into safe mode because there was a malicious app that was attacking my phone, and I didn't know how to get out of the damn safe mode. You couldn't drag the button and open up anything, and went to the help menu because I didn't have a phone at that point in time. But I could get to the help menu, and the help menu was useless. I mean, I tried to follow it, but it was useless. And the solution was to turn your phone on.
Yeah, turn back on, right? Yeah.
Turn it back on, obviously.
Yeah, it's a real concern. Privacy is a true issue, and things like this, a lot of times they want to capture that information.
I wasn't using the app, I was just driving down the road.
That's
And
great.
it could have been the damn express lanes on 76.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. You know, it's just funny because when I was at Disney World, I waiting in line for 3 hours for, you know, Toy Story ride, whatever. I got to where I was exploring. God, let me see how many devices I see as neighbors, and I just saw so much things going on, and it's kind of interesting what you see. And that's one of the things they definitely report on for these two, right? Even if you say I don't connect, it sees you and it knows who you are. It knows the MAC address, and it knows that you were there last week as well because of the MAC address on your phone. Yeah. Huh? Being exaggerating a little bit, but not much. 2 hours was the longest one. I said, all right, done with this. But yeah, it's fun of this. Next, you know, this is kind of just something I'll show as a reference. You know, the things that we have to keep track of. When's the fiber getting built? When are we actually putting our switches in the closets? When are we actually hanging APs? When is the first home game? When do they actually use it? Things like that. And then here's kind of a drawing from a Google Earth type standpoint of, all right, we got to bring in fiber, but it doesn't make sense for me to bring fiber in only in one location. Because if the backhoe hits that fiber, nobody cares if that backhoe driver hit the fiber, which was provided by Segra. They just know that Segra's fiber's down, and that's why all the concessions are down, and nobody can be scanning tickets, and the AP doesn't work for our loudspeaker, and it'd be our fault, right? So it's always our fault. It's always your fault. So we need to bring in fiber in a diverse way, right? So if that backhoe goes and hits fiber, then I've got another way to get into the building somewhere else. And the scary part that we had originally was the city only gave us the option to go one path in. We've since fixed that. In their planning, they decided to put this baseball park between brick deck in the middle of CSX line for trains and Amtrak. So those are kind of hard obstacles to get I zeroed out a few different things here with different AP components, switch, firewall, routers that have to be considered when doing a Wi-Fi deployment. In there, they wanted to have, I mentioned earlier about doing like 10 gigs of internet. They wanted 1 gig for these guest Wi-Fi, and then 1 gig of internet for their corporate use. And they had various needs from faxing to elevators that may be mindful of to fire alarms. But you can do all that now. It used to be you have to do it off the copper lines. Now you can actually do those off the fiber lines as long as you're providing redundant power to the equipment. Just in case, obviously, you have fire or something like that, knock out power, you gotta have a battery backup solution so that they can still call somebody stuck in the like that. This is showing some equipment here of what these different closets look like and how much actually equipment or rack space we take up with this equipment. A lot of these deployments we're probably deploying anywhere from 50 to 150 access points.
So you have to account for every single one of those switchboards of where those are going back to, as well as a lot of times we're also accommodating for their servers, their state workstations. And it's funny, PA systems now have all gone from analog to where they're doing it over IP, which that creates a whole other thing for us to be thoughtful of when it comes to speakers, where they're placed and how they connect in. It's bill of material. But then we have to work with the customers to get it, do an IP addressing, right? What's that going to look like? Where the VLANs are used for. The retail aspect, security. This is kind of an interesting thing. Are there many baseball fans in the audience? Okay. All right. So even if you're not a baseball fan, you probably heard about Houston Astros had a bit of an issue here recently where they got caught up in some things where people were saying they were.
Well, I asked earlier whether you're not, worked on the prototype.
Well, so what's interesting is I actually worked with a guy, they flew in a guy from Houston that worked specifically with their cameras, all right? And they set up, it's a minor league team. It's cool, it's neat, but it's minor league, it's not major league.
It's A.
It's A, single A, right? So that's, for those who aren't familiar with baseball, it goes single A, double A, triple A, majors, right? So it's, but they do have events where they get 10,000 people there. And they were pretty good about selling out for baseball, which the capacity of baseball is 20,000. They put 70 cameras in there. Just for security. 70.
For security
For
or?
security.
Well,
And
it is fake.
it's
Facial
funny.
recognition too?
It's funny you say that because they did have some issues the first week. The interesting thing is these security cameras, this gentleman called Mr. Lee, nice guy, sharp guy, but he worked on all the cameras they used in Houston. These cameras he was showing me were really interesting. He did some proprietary things with them, and it was his own little baby. I would be in the outfield. If I held up my license, he could have a camera from the home plate area, read my address off my license. And they got in trouble for a little bit of signal
using
stealing.
technology to steal a car. It's okay to do it with your eyes.
Remember when I first heard, I was like, wow, that's cool. I met Mr. Lee, the guy that probably was behind some of the scandalous things we did.
Did you watch? Catch your signal?
Yeah, the calls.
Yeah, they don't matter. They should be
Well, you're really concerned. I don't want to get that too much.
My favorite example.
Yeah, there you go. Bringing trash waste to give them signals, that's right. Back lines. We were doing our phone stuff over there too, which is fun, exciting. There's a lot of things that obviously you have to check. We have checklists that we run through. I didn't pull any in here, but things you don't even think of that come up, right? Like they're moving these big earth movers in, and they crushed our conduit going into center field. Then how do we get around that? They gotta then put new
Do
conduit.
you have a
around.
single D-mark for that kind of installation, or do you do two vendors and two D-marks?
So the D-mark's us,
Right.
we're the provider, and
Yeah.
we use two different D-marks, that's correct. So we said D-mark, demarcation point, which traditionally the demarcation point is where it's an obligation of the service provider, and then it's a handoff to the customer. In this situation, it's our
It's
entry
you.
point, but then it's us, because we're managing the equipment, almost acting as a continuation of their IT.
The termination point.
So the
for
termination
e-commerce.
point is coming into two different places.
So if someone rolls over, you're not.
Not that one, that's right. Yeah, a lot of our customers are wanting, they demand that. So, but especially for these, we don't want to put ourselves in line. Just a couple pictures from the installation. I mean, this stuff's a lot of gear. Some example there. There's my buddy that's on the phone right there, Dan Pokerzowski, with the racks beforehand.
Seems okay.
Nice.
He seems okay.
Yeah, he's like, oh, great, we're here again today. The fun, the interesting thing is coming from a service provider world, I'm used to going into a closet and it's usually pretty clean. They might have a mop in there, it's still filled with things. But this, it was like, we're waiting on all these other contractors to get their things done before we could actually move along, which adds the time. Well, you look at sometimes, I forget how many, like you look at a building sometimes, you don't realize how much fiber and cable are pulled through.
So did you pull up that Ethernet on the upper right hand side?
We didn't do it. But a third party.
Yeah, but that was all pulled through your project.
Yeah, we're working with, there's a couple different firms here in Charlotte that do a really good job. They go throughout the state. Yeah.
What's their names?
Telecom was the one we worked with there. They're out of, Matthews.
What's their names that do a good job pulling fiber?
Matthew, or Telecom does a good job. Yeah, they'll do wiring throughout the land facility. Yeah. Sienna, sort of power termination gear. But these projects too, they have these aggressive dates that they have to meet. This picture was taken 2 weeks before their opening day. If you look, that's the front entrance, right? This is crazy. They were able to do it, put blacktop down the whole thing. Otherwise, they were going to get fined. They taken like $30,000 a day over. So they made sure that they.
Can I get a picture of your Sienna, your previous slide?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Get these straps, make sure we tighten those in. It's the little things sometimes that pulls you out of projects like this.
I've got a friend at Crown Castle.
You did? Yeah.
I just didn't. He used to work. He worked temporarily at Crown Castle. Crown Castle bought his company, and then they bought him for a year, and then got rid of him.
That's how that goes, right? Yeah, we actually just stole away the Castle CFO, so that's kind of exciting.
Right around the corner from you.
Yeah, they do a good job. They really got a good reputation. Switching stack cables. So here we were talking about, protecting these switches, so if one were to fall over, then it fell over to the secondary and tertiary. That's good.
They do a lot of express routes.
That's my buddy here. He's ready to get landed.
Hey, Pogo, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, did you get landed yet?
Yeah, I'm actually on the, you want to be on the Spirit Bridge?
Yeah, get on that bridge and then I can pass the pen to you if you want to show how that works. I'm going to show a couple examples of it, but if you want to get situated, I'll pass the pen.
Yeah, I'm on the web meeting now.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll do it in just a second then. So you should see the slide up. I got a concourse 1-2A. Do you want to talk what that is? You see it in front, Rick, real quick, and then I'll pass it over so you can show what that software looks like.
I'm sorry, Nate, I can barely hear you.
Oh, I was gonna say, do you want to talk about what you see right in front of you right now, and then I'll pass the pen over to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
You actually see my screen or no?
No, yeah, I'll do that. Hold on, stand by.
Okay.
Sorry, I use that microphone, I think, for him to hear me. So.
There you go, I can hear you now.
Oh, I put the microphone down, you can hear me. What the heck's that all about? All right. Let me go ahead and. You should see that, then click on that and you'll get a chance. Go present.
Connected to the server. Did you want me to step through a quick tutorial on importing a map and a quick
Yeah, yes.
review? Okay. When you're on there, I got a circle here. Thinking about working.
I don't see your camera or your screen, by the way.
What's that?
I don't see your screen, by the way.
No, I got a not responding on the main control. There you go. It's coming back. There you go. Alright. Share. I don't want to see my screen.
Yeah, you can see your screen. Thank you. So what he's showing right now is
I don't know how much.
the software that actually does that predictive model.
Pretty good software, you can do it while you're driving.
He's multi-talented. That's why it works well.
Do you drive an auto drive Tesla?
Yeah, he's in a, I don't know if he's in a hotel lobby or a room or where he's at right now, but. Dave, where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm in my hotel room.
Okay.
I'm in my hotel room right now.
Alright.
So let me know when I proceed and I'll start. 'Cause I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah,
there's
yeah,
lag
we
between
see you.
everything
Go.
here.
We see, well, probably. Yeah, we see you, so go ahead and start, buddy.
Okay, all right. So this is EchoHow Pro. This is a Wi-Fi design software that we utilize. The first step, of course, is to add a map. So our client, it's a requirement for any predictive design that the client provides us with a floor plan, an architectural floor plan. Without it, there's no way to perform a design, predictive design, or even on-site doing an active or passive site survey. You don't know where you are on the map, and the software won't know where you are when you're walking through the facility, gathering all the data if you're doing an active or passive site survey. So as I said, first step is to add a map. I'll go ahead and do that here. This one I just recently worked on. We're bringing a blank map here. Acceptable formats would be PDF, GIF, JPEG, anything, even CAD files. We prefer PDF, especially when they come directly from the architectural firm, because we know that we can scale them properly. It has a scale built in and set on here. This one does not, so this is going to be a good example for us. So as you see here, this is actually, looks like a copy. Someone copied this and did not copy it properly by placing it on a scanner. So the first step, of course, is to orient this map correctly. So here we are. So this client has 2 floors. It's an old bank apparently. So I know at the first step would be to import a map, but of course, you need to do the discovery portion of this work. You need to work with the clients, of course, to gather all of the site requirements, and you need to lay eyes on the site yourself, because there's no way to tell whether these walls are drywall, if it's glass. If it's a conference room and it's glass, of course, that's going to cause the RF to do different things than if it was concrete or hollow drywall. So you need to definitely be on site to walk the location, do a site survey. Best if you do have the maps or the floor plans I have here, to do an active or passive site survey, which would be, and I don't know if Nate had gone over this, AP on a stick, which we have, which is basically an AP that's powered by a power source. Place the AP on one side of the building, say over here in the executive office, power it up. You connect to that AP, do that SSID that we have built in there, and then you walk the site. And that, if you're connected to that AP, then that would be considered an active site survey. And then you just walk through the location. Here's a survey. I won't go too deep into this, but basically you walk the site. And as you're walking, it'll measure the RF. So that way when you go into this office, you want to walk into every single location, in and out. And then when you get back to the office, you can measure how the RF drops between, the AP is over here in the executive office. You walk into the support office and it drops 10 dB. So you know that, on the outside here, it drops 5 dBs and now it's 10 dBs. You know these walls or doors about 5 decibel loss on, so that we can add that in, which I'll show you further down the line. So if and when possible, an active or passive site survey is best, but you can do a predictive site survey just to get to the point where you can present a solution and pricing to the customer. After site survey would be if the client had existing access points in the facility, and you just walk through the facility and you do not connect to an SSID, do not connect to any AP, you're basically gathering all the information, all the RF, regardless of what that is. You know, it could be neighbors, and that gives you a good idea for channel planning and, you know, what the RF environment looks like. So we went through, we have the map here, we oriented properly. It does have a scale, I believe it does. I think it's first floor. It has here, the eighth of an inch is 1 foot. So I can't trust it because as you can see, it was actually copied and it's not correct. It did not come over, copied correctly. So what I need to do, first step is you need to set scale, which is the measurements. That's the only way you're going to get an accurate, predictive design is if you know what the dimensions of this location is. So there's no way that we can do 1/8 or 1 foot. There's absolutely no way. So I need to determine how I can, set the scale on this. And the longer the run here, when you do your measurements, and I'll show you here. So you can see here, this goes through, and I would enter in what this wall measurement is. Of course, we all know, doors are, average about 3 feet. I could do that, and that's, a simple, quick way to do it. But the longer the run, the more accurate results you're going to get. You get in with, you get out what you put into it. So the more accurate you are, the better. So what I like to do in these situations is go to Google Maps, open up the site location, and you can actually use Google Maps to measure the distance of the top of the building. I already did that here, so we can open up Google real quick.
Is it, so Pogo, what you're doing there is you're just looking at one wall in particular, then just grab that, right?
Exactly.
Or
It
the
could be
length.
anything. You just have to do, if you do the length of that wall, the door, whatever you want to measure, you just have to do it one time, and then it just automatically saves that, and then every measurement can be accurate. Can you see the map here, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I did is I put in the location, this is the location of the client, and I measured from one end of the building to the other. I know this is just an overhang here, so I do not want to measure that. And I'm not going to jump back and forth, it'll probably take a few seconds for it to pop up on your screen. So I measured here, this is 87.21 feet. So I went back into, so if I go in here and do from this side here, all the way over to here, and then just type in 87, enter, so now it's set. So now how I would check this, if I did not go on site and use my laser measure to determine the length of any of these walls here, I'll go to the door itself. Let's just measure this real quick. And you see we're about 3 feet, 3.1. So that was an accurate measurement using Google Earth or Google Maps. So that's the first step. That is already, so that's set. We know the measurements, and now it's going to take all the calculations when I do add the APs to know how the RF propagates through this building. Second step would be to set the area. Because you don't, if I do place an AP anywhere on this map, the RF is going to blast all throughout the map here, and it doesn't look pretty for presenting that to the customer. So here's the area. So here's the area tool. And basically we want to do, I'll do it real quick, but what you want to do, you kind of want to measure every single wall here. You just go around and click. I'm not going to do that, it's going to take too long. So basically, this will basically contain the RF.
So he's doing this real quick, but normally what he's doing, he gets very meticulous about this. And, even thinks of things like elevator shafts or someplace maybe in particular you don't want any Wi-Fi signal to penetrate. So you kind of usually, when I watch him do these maps, I go, man, I feel for you, buddy, because it's a lot of clicking.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So we have exclusions area, as Nate just said. We definitely don't want Wi-Fi in the bathroom. So if you exclude that area,
Never leave.
if you do an auto calculate, it will not put an AP to have RF in that bathroom. So I'll do that just to show you an example of what that would look like. So we'll just block out this area here. So now when we do the auto plan, we won't take that square footage into consideration. And then the time, I'm gonna show you real quick, this is where, as Nate said, this is very time consuming. I can spend upwards of 40 hours on one project, just depending on the size and complexity of that opportunity. Building all of the walls, all the structure, the materials, it all makes a big difference. You spend the time up front, it's gonna save you on the back end when you actually deploy these and you don't have to move them around because structure cabling is very expensive. And if you have to move that to another location, that's gonna cost you. So as they said, you really have to build all these walls out. There's plenty of options. It comes pre-built with the loss, the signal loss. So you're gonna lose about 40 dB on a hollow wood door. And of course, we're gonna go cinder block, concrete for the exterior. I like to go, a lot of the structures are made, they do a cinder block and then they fill them with concrete. So you really need to, that's why it's critical to do an active site survey so you can determine what type of loss between the building materials.
Hey, Pug, I'm just
Like
going
to
to
do
real quick there.
Yeah.
I think you've all probably noticed, a lot of times we go out these sites and somebody's got pre-existing Wi-Fi, and they'll literally be like, in this executive office and go, if I keep this door open, my signal's great. When I shut it, look what happens. And you hear that over and over and over again, right? It's, well, the executive office has a, solid wood door, and it's blocking that signal. And your APs are wall mounted. But hey, you've got drop ceilings. We could actually put them up in the drops or hang them on the T-rails of the drop. So there's a lot of different things that you look at, but there's so many times you go into these and they're like, the signal's great right here, but when you get over here, oh man, it's horrible. We've tried everything in the world, nothing seems to work. But go ahead, Bob, I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm going ahead and real quick, you can see I'm adding all the different building materials. It's drywall. I go with the 3dB loss. It's better to go higher than lower, more loss, because if it's better, and you can lower the power on the AP if the signal's too strong. I do drywall here. I'm just going to do this real there.
And while he's drawing, I'll take the talking. I'll wait for a minute. So, Pogo, continue drawing. Just let me know when you're ready to chime in again, but I'll talk for a minute.
Yep.
When he's doing this, he's trying to do all the building composition. Then he's going to have a chance here to show some other things of AP placement. But he's going to have an objective where he wants to be kind of close to that 60 to 70 dB mark. So when he's talking about the drop of 3 dB, he's just talking about power drop, right? So it cuts it down, cuts into the signal. And here too, we talked about 2.4 or 5. You see both of those listed there, and that's what he has selected right now is both. It's what he's put consideration-wise building out. What that plan will look like. All right, Pogo, I'll hand it back to you, buddy.
Okay. So the difference between a good design and a bad predictive design is not taking everything into consideration, not looking at the map, not working with the client to determine, if you are on site, of course, you're going to see everything. This customer is located in Richmond, Virginia. I'm going up there next week, but of course they want this done ASAP, so I need to get something back to the sales rep and the sales engineering team up in that area as soon as possible. So immediately I see files here, right? So I'm thinking file cabinet. Well, how tall is the file cabinet? How wide? They're obviously metal file cabinets, but they could be floor to ceiling. So if I were to place an AP on this side of this work area, that RF is not going to go through 6 or 7 file cabinets and reach over here. So what you can do, and what I did in this situation, you can build out exclusion areas, rectangular attenuation area like this, and I can actually build, there you go. So I can do that, I can actually change the settings. I can create file cabinets and attenuation areas to simulate that there are file cabinets in that area. That I just don't know at this point. I did ask the question, but I have not received a response back, but I'd rather be safe than sorry with something like this. So I'll go ahead and just pop those in there. All the settings can be changed. So you can go into the settings here, change the height, So 4.9 feet, and of course, Ekahau, I mean, everything is pre-populated, so they take pretty much the standard height of, you know, in the end, this probably could possibly be from an old design that I had done. So once I change this, that automatically changes this area to 6 feet, 3 dB loss. So it's probably gonna be a lot more than that, but 3 dB stacked up through the 5 file cabinets is a, you know, big difference. Another thing to take into consideration, as I said, if I did not have an exclusion area for the bathroom, I would definitely want to do center block. As we know, all the pipes, everything coming up through the back of all the stalls, that's definitely going to be hollow center block. And that, of course, let me just show you real quick the difference between.
But hey, Mo, just got about five
Yeah.
more minutes to show it to you, so just want to give you time. Jeff.
Okay. All right, so let me do this then. So we have an auto planner here. You got set, you got a channel planner, auto planner. So we go in here, and I traditionally don't do this. I actually place the APs one by one and move them around, and it makes that take forever to do these designs. So you configure this as area 1. I'll configure this as a device. So of course, as I said before, you need to work with the client. What type of devices are they using? Look at the models to see if they have 3x3, which, you know, some of the Apple iMac, they're going to have a 3x3 Wi-Fi card built in. How many clients? You know, out of all the devices you want, and that's going to change how many APs that are placed on the map when you use the auto planner option. So here are some of the options. You have generic smartphone, tablet, voice phone, and then you put the quantity. So we always do this here. And then access point type, this is critical, of course. So we only use Ruckus. In this type of situation, I already designed this, but I'm going to use an R510 because they obviously don't need an R710 with a 4x4 antenna pattern. It's just overkill for this. I think they have 12 employees. They have 2 floors and 12 employees. So I'm just looking for coverage here, and they want to be able to roam between the first floor and second floor. So I got to take that into consideration also because there's a stairwell. So we, you know, if they have the laptop open, they're on a Skype call or walking through doing work and we're connected to the server in the cloud, we don't want them to drop. So as soon as I do that, the city now has 2 APs and it automatically places these APs on the map. Here are the channels and automatically sets that to either one, I already have this preset, 1, 6, and 11, non-overlapping channel at 2.4. You can change everything to see the RF propagation by just changing either 5 gigahertz to 2.4. I should have said in the beginning, this slide here, this is my threshold. I would do neg 65. A lot of Wi-Fi engineers will do neg 68, which is fine. I like to go a little bit better than that. So that's the threshold there, neg 65. So if I go up here and just let my mouse hover over the top of here, it's going to tell me in this corner here, neg 65, you know, either 2.4, if I go 5 gigahertz. There you go. So it shows right there. So that far away from this. And in the bathroom, it's not going to show anything. Now what I do is, as Nate said, I go through and I move all these APs to make sure I have the correct placement because it doesn't know that this potentially could be a location that you do not want an access point. Something to take into consideration, you never want to place an access point in a hallway. That's terrible for roaming, and the AP will just shoot down like a terminal shotgun. You want to place that inside the office. So if this was placed over here, that would not be good if we had another one covering there. You want to just place it right inside here. So that way the wall attenuates the signal and then allows the individuals walking through here to slowly, when they turn this corner here, or coming around here and over here, they're going to roam to the next AP. They're going to have time to do that instead of coming straight around the corner. The signal drops and then they got to pick up to the next AP, which is not going to happen fast enough for them. Anything else you want to show you, Nate? I have a lot more, but I'll just, you know, whatever you.
Yeah, I know you do. I think just kind of examples we can get some ideas thinking about AP placement. But I appreciate you showing that. Does anybody have any questions about that or methodology in AP placement? I think they're good on that, Pogo. I appreciate it, buddy. I know we kind of checked in,
Sure.
get ready for tomorrow, but I'll take over if that's all right. But thanks again, buddy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
What are you showing there is just kind of, I don't know if that's one of the arenas that we're working on, or if that's a Walmart. Oh, yes, it's very good what we're talking about. What if you placement and then channel assignments, some of those type of things, is what he's told in there. So you look there, he's simulating Wi-Fi experience. Cool stuff. I had other slides that I could show, but I'm going to go ahead and probably include it there. Anybody have any questions?
Enough for another night?
Yeah. Well, you know, the thought is maybe if y'all are interested, we can have it. It wouldn't be up here yapping away, but Pogo would probably be in the audience, and then we'd have somebody from either Cisco or Ruckus, or I don't know anybody over Ubiquity, but maybe we can find somebody like that as well. But definitely know some folks over Ruckus / CommScope that would love to come and talk about Wi-Fi 6, right? So 802.11ax, the next iteration of that, how that works with 5G. I think that could be an interesting discussion. Everybody's talking 5G, and if some of you got, I don't have one. I'm still on like iPhone 6 or 7, but the iPhone 11s, they have that capability. Some of the all the new Android ones are coming out also have that capability. It's actually mandated by some of the carriers. Any new phone has that ability. That's going on the market.
What are we doing?
To do the next iteration Wi-Fi 6, 802.11 AX and 5G.
Why is it better?
Why is it better? More speed. That's what everybody says, right? But you know, the interesting thing is the speed stuff. It's a challenge. It's interesting how it all works, and you see how it daisy chains. I'll just kind of, I won't talk too much on this. Get you out of here. But from a service provider standpoint, Disney Plus went live December 11th, and so we have all these internet connections, and we're providing internet to a lot of telephone companies, things like that. Every year, come January 1st, first week of January, we noticed an uptick from over the previous 2 weeks of about 10 to 15% internet consumption.
Yeah, people are home.
People are, well, that's what we always thought. The other thing is, that it stayed consistent. So we're like, why does it stay consistent? So it took us a little, I don't know why it took us a while to figure it out. We're not that smart, I guess, but what it was is a lot of people are bringing on new devices. Right? New devices have more speed, better power, all of that. And I remember looking before when we first started doing like some streaming of like Netflix, and if you all remember when Netflix originally came out, there'd be like, it was always, buffering, and then the service providers would put those servers in their network so that the customers are reacting, going, why does it take so long? And then I thought, wow, this is great. Now this is HD, what we're streaming here. But then it became 4K. 4K is becoming 8K. Who knows it's beyond that, probably holograms or whatever. But when you start talking 8K, 4K from a throughput perspective, the amount of throughput you need
Good. All right. And then increase people like HBO compress.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We can call it 4K.
Yeah,
But not on Christmas Day.
No, I know. But then again, a lot of, even the cable providers themselves, they've switched their platforms to where they're delivering over IP as well. And to talk to your set-top box, they'll have multiple streams going so that you're not calling, complaining, saying, every time I switch a channel, it takes 3 seconds, right? There's some other things there to play too, but the consumption's gone up just so much. And that's really what you're going to see, supposedly, with Wi-Fi. Because right now, you always ask the question, and we always feel dumb afterwards. Why does anyone ever need that? Good Lord, right? There's some people in here that kind of remember when we went from a Pentium 1 to a Pentium 2 to a Pentium 3 and go, why would you ever need that much power, right?
Why would you need 2 gigabytes?
Yeah, this is ridiculous, right? And then we all go, well, yeah, of course, right?